Hello, we're coming to you from Marla's Memory Lane here in Los Angeles, and my very special guest is Marla Gibbs, and you'll recognize her immediately as Florence, but we're going to talk about some of the other fantastic things that she's doing in her spare time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Are you tired of Florence, or do you love Florence?
I love her to death. If it wasn't for Florence, I wouldn't be able to do a whole lot of things. And I'm very grateful to be doing Florence.
Florence is a fun person, and Florence is the person that we all want to be because she tells off everybody.
Well, I think Florence is what you call a person with what we call mother wit. She doesn't take any stuff. She's not formally educated, but she has street sense and common sense, which a lot of people with book sense don't have. So she's her own person, and what she's really saying is that she's not willing to give up her dignity in exchange for money.
I have a question I must ask you. Is Florence a good maid?
Yes, she is, because she's a teacher. See, a good maid will always teach you how to take care of your own house so that you will not be helpless. Isabel always asked me, she said, "Why do we have you here?" I said, "To train you, my dear. Apparently you don't know how to do none of these things." Now, when I leave here, you'll know how to answer your door. You'll know how to clean your kitchen. I said, "I don't want you to be helpless."
I love it when you always tell him to go get the door. That's a great line, and you make the most of it. Do you see that the Jeffersons have evolved over the years? It started in 1975. Mm-hmm. Were you all playing it differently then than the way you're playing it now?
Yes, I think we've grown a great deal. Of course, when you first enter a show, you don't know what direction you're going in. As time has passed, we've gotten involved with issues. We did the show on a kidney transplant. We did a show on what is the Heimlich method for choking. And as a matter of fact, we received a letter from a mother whose young son saved the life of the daughter. The child was choking and she panicked, didn't know what to do, and the son had seen the show. He grabbed the child, and so she wrote us a letter. She was very grateful. As a matter of fact, our casting agent was in the theater, and one of the ushers had seen the show, and she was choking on some popcorn, and he saved her. So, you know, things like that do help. We just did a show on functional illiteracy, which was on last Sunday.
I saw that one.
So we're getting involved in some drama, which we like, because I think all comedy shows need some dramatic relief, just as drama shows need comedy relief. And I think they go hand in hand. So I think we're attacking some relevant issues, and I think television can be fun as well as a learning institution, and that the show should be about that.
So many people knock television, and they forget the shows such as yours and some of the others that have tackled child abuse, functional illiteracy, incest. Those things were always taboo before television. And now people who are watching are learning that, hey, that isn't the way it has to be. They're
also learning that the things that they think are unique or frightening and don't happen every place else are happening every place else, and they don't feel so guilty and so pent up about it. So they feel much freer to do things about it, and they're learning what to do about it, especially the incest. I don't think anybody was aware to what large scale that it happened, you know, or that there was help available, and I think it helps the attacker as well as the attackee.
We'll be back in a moment with Marla, and we'll talk further about the Jeffersons. We're coming to you from Marla's Memory Lane. Marla Gibbs is my guest. Recognize her as Florence, but later on we're going to talk about what she's currently doing in her spare time besides the Jeffersons. How much of a task is it to learn those scripts? I mean, the Jeffersons has been on for years and years, and every week you get how many pages of dialogue?
It's about 46 usually, between, I guess, between 39 and 45, 46 pages depending on what you have, what kind of show it is. Like, for example, we have less pages this week because we have the Sister Sledge as guests, and they're doing 3 songs, so you need less dialogue. But as far as the script is concerned, now it's very easy because we've been on 9 years. Your characters are set. You know who they are, you know just about what they would say, what they wouldn't say. It's very simple to learn the lines. For me, I usually learn mine the first day. You know, I never pick the script up, as a matter of fact, after we go through it. Because whatever lines I don't come to memory the next day, she's going to give them to me anyway. And that's all I have to worry about, is those that I didn't remember. And that way it leaves me free to think. Because I usually, once I read it, it's in my head about what I want to do with it, what's bothering me, what didn't sound right, what didn't feel right. And I usually concentrate on everybody else's lines too. What doesn't sound right that they're saying. And I become their audience. As a matter of fact, we become an audience for each other.
Do they let you roam free, so to speak? A lot of the reason that Florence works is the way you play her, and it's the gestures, and it's the feeling that you give to her. Do they let you go free with that? Or?
We've been very fortunate ever since the first show, which is one I came in on. What I said to them is that, you know, we speak in a rhythm. Every race speaks in a rhythm, and we know that it's right because of what we hear. You know, if you hear the Chinese speaking, you hear a certain, without realizing there's certain mannerisms, and the Spanish people and the black people, especially when you're dealing with certain communities, not just talking about proper English. There are rhythms that you speak in. If you don't use them, they don't work. And so a line can be correct, but sometimes it's a matter of taking Mr. Jefferson from the beginning and putting it in the middle or putting it at the end so that it flows into that rhythm. And I guess I had an innate ability to know what that rhythm was, and they trusted me with it. And we've always gone through the script one time for timing, and then we start giving our input, what lines we would like change, what works, what doesn't work. And sometimes on Friday, ideas come up. You're trying to do it, you know, the way it's written, and it's not working, so you come up with an idea. And we tried, it works. You know, or somebody does something in playing, we say, hey, we should use that, and we'll change what's there and use that, and they like it, they'll keep it, or they'll say, well, it spoils the setup for this, and then with some of those things we have to live with, you know. But we generally work together, and we've got a very good company.
You do it before a live audience?
Yes, we do 2 shows in front of 2 different live audiences, and we take the best out of the 2.
Oh, you do it twice?
We have a 5:30 show, and we have an 8 o'clock show, and we change audiences.
Is there an average? Does the first one usually go, or the last one?
Generally, it's been the last one, but sometimes we have such a good first audience, and the second audience doesn't top it. And sometimes it depends on what's going on. For example, we're at Universal now. Say it's been raining, and they're out there in that tram traveling, and then they have to stand and wait. They're not that happy when they come in. You know, their energy is down, and it makes a difference. And sometimes you have a lot of people from out of town, and they're busy looking around at all the things that you see in a set that they've never seen, and they're not really listening to you. They say, oh, look at this over here, look over there, you know, that kind of thing. Because that's what I did when I went to see Sanford and Son for the first time. I was amazed at all the junk they had on that set and where they found all those interesting pieces. And everybody's looking at the show, and I'm looking at all the interesting objects. And I think that a lot of people do that their first time in a set.
So we're going to give you an A as an actress and an F as an audience.
Yeah.
You flunk audience. Is it different doing a show such as Love Boat, which is not done in front of a live audience?
For me it is, because I'm used to working with an audience, and I pick up their vibrations very well, and I think it's very important to get that energy. They give you a certain energy, and you feel it, even though you never deal with them being there. You know, they're not there. Still, they're feeding you, you know. And there's a difference when no one's there. It's kind of, it's just different, you know. It's kind of empty.
We'll be back in a moment, and we'll talk about Marla's other lives, her life in the theater, her life as a businesswoman, her life as a mother. You may wonder why we're doing this show from Memory Lane nightclub, and it belongs to Marla Gibbs, and of course you know Marla as Florence in the Jeffersons. This is something that Marla dreamed up in her spare time, because not only is she an actress, but she's a businesswoman. Why did you go into this?
Well, basically I went into it because of the musicians. It's become a club for many reasons, but because jazz music is a classic, it's our classic, it's the same as the classics. And there is no market for it. And you hear things like jazz is dying, and that's a shame because our children go to school and they study very hard. And when they come out, there's no place for them to play. You know, they can't all fit in the Philharmonic. You know, they may get 1 or 2 seats. But the music is our heritage. And somebody has to provide an avenue for these people to be able to play. So the memory lane is that. I don't think that jazz is a fad that comes and goes. You know, I think
it's been around too long to be a fad.
Yeah, and the musicians work very hard. They read, they write. It's very creative music, and it tells a story. It tells our story, and I think we have to be responsible for taking care of it, just as people take care of the Philharmonic all over the world. And I want to make sure that there's always a place for the musicians. Now, we've also added the singers because, you know, it all goes hand in hand. So this club kind of addresses itself to those things.
And then you didn't just sit idly by and be absentee type owner. You decorated this club.
Yes. I think if you want something, first you have an idea. In our particular community, we had no place where you could really get continental cuisine either. And I think if you want to go to Beverly Hills or you want to go to Century City or the Marina or whatever, it's fine, but I think it's a crime when you have to go. So I think we should have, in our particular community, everything that's available to any other community. Then we have choices. And I think that's what every community should have, a choice.
I don't know if our audience can pick it up, but as you're saying this, people dining at the club are agreeing with you and saying, yeah, right, right. The other thing, one of the other things you do in your spare time is that you're acting in a play right now. 227?
Yes. 227 is an original by a lady named Christine Houston from Chicago, and of course I'm from Chicago. And it's about our particular community. And it's an 18-member cast, which in our workshop we're very happy about because we have children and we have all age groups in the play. Children and older seniors and the middle age and youngsters like myself. And
me too, count me in.
And my daughter is producing it, my daughter and her assistant, and we have Ed Cambridge, who, as a matter of fact, was Isabel's teacher in New York in the Negro Ensemble Theater, and at the Y, he ran the Y, I think, in New York. So most of the actors have come under Ed Cambridge, so we're very fortunate to have him at our school.
And while you're talking about your one daughter, I know you have a son who is...
I have 2 sons.
And one I know, you can tell about the other one, I know is a fine actor, and he's in the very special drama department at USC.
Right, right. Dorian graduates this June, as a matter of fact, and he's thinking of going on to Yale, which is supposed to be the epitome, he tells me, for actors.
As he asks you for the check, he tells you that...
This is true. Now, Joey is my middle son, and Joey works on the crew of the Jeffersons at One Day at a Time. He's in sound there.
Do you think that there's anything to the fact that it comes with the genes, or is it all environment, that your kids are turning out to be potential superstars in the same area that you are in?
I think it's environment. When we moved to LA, we got involved in theater. My daughter and I both got involved in a workshop 3 blocks from where we started ours, and it was called PASLA, Performing Arts Society of Los Angeles. And we both found we were bitten by the bug. We both started at the same time. We worked in plays together. She went on before I did, as a matter of fact, to be on television. She did Sanford and Son, and she starred in a movie. She worked in several television productions. She did a commercial. She did the Mark Taper Forum, which I have yet to do. And then she decided that she wanted to go off and finish college.
And then she finished college.
And then she became a writer, and so she's written some things that the studio's interested in looking at, and now she's performing again. So she's kind of run the gamut, and now she's a producer, so she's really gotten to do more things than I have. I've just been consistent on one show.
Did the kids support you as you're running around doing this, or did they resent the time you spent away from home?
No, basically we were very close. Even in Detroit, our house was like, I was like block mother, so all the kids hung on my porch. And so I was always all right with my kids because I was all right with all the other kids.
With the other kids.
And that's what works, you know. So we sort of did things together all the time. I was always involved with what they were doing. They were both in basketball, my daughter and my son. So I was always at their games. If they wanted to sing, I was the mother that took all the kids and did that kind of
thing.
You're
the carpooler.
I would bake cookies, and in order to get a cookie, you had to sing or dance or do something. So when we came out here, this was about, you know, just right for us. So we've been very happy.
We'll come back and we'll talk about the Theater for the Performing Arts that Marla has started. If you like jazz and you're in the LA area, then you must come to Marla's Memory Lane. You can hear the group in the background, I hope. And the address is
2323 West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Los Angeles at the corner of 2nd Avenue.
How's that? I think we make a good team here.
Right.
Besides all these things you do in your spare time, like acting in a play, doing the Jeffersons, and running this restaurant and jazz club, you've started a theater group. Why did you do that?
Well, I started a theater group because primarily I feel that the community should be responsible for the artists in the community. We should be providing a place for them to act. I think people can come and work in local theater and maybe make $3.35 or whatever the minimum is an hour, rather than having to go to McDonald's and work at something they're not interested in, you know. And I think if we can cultivate the community to coming to the plays, like they go to movies, then we could afford to do that, and we wouldn't have youngs just having to run off to Hollywood, which cannot accommodate all of them, and they would have an outlet for their talents. We could also teach them how to do lights, how to do stage managing, and all the things that are relevant to theater and television and film.
Do you give acting classes?
Oh yes, we have acting classes. We have ballet, we have interpretive dancing, we have martial arts, we have crafts, we have a writing class, and then we also have a reader's theater where we put on the works of the new writers so that they can see them in action, and sometimes we perform them if they're that good.
You've been lucky, so to speak, in Hollywood terms, of having a long-running part in the Jeffersons. But I know Cicely Tyson recently put up some of her own money to produce and star in a Broadway play because she wanted a role that was not necessarily written for a black. Do you agree with her assessment? Do you think that blacks don't really get a fair chance?
Yeah, I think because it says blacks. For example, you cannot go on an interview unless the character says black. What we are people with the same experiences that any other people have. Lou Gossett got an opportunity to do a role in The Officer and a Gentleman, and of course his history. He got the Oscar for it.
And he was wonderful.
And it was not a black role, it could have been anybody. And what we're saying is we would like to go out for any role. You know, for example, if a writer is writing a script and of course the star of that particular script is Caucasian, then of course his wife is Caucasian, his children are Caucasian, but the other people around need not be Caucasian, they could be anything. So all the actors should be able to come out, whether they're Indian, Chinese, or whatever, and let the best actor get the part. Because that's what we're saying. There is nothing that's different. They keep trying to define what is a black show, what is a white show. You know, and we hear that there aren't going to be any more black shows. Well, that's fine if there aren't going to be any more white shows. But are there going to be people shows? Because we're people. And that's really all we're saying. And if we have to go and produce it in order to be able to do that, then that's what we should do. And that's what our theater is about, being able to train and perform in those parts that we live in our daily lives. You know.
Do you think that, how far do you think Hollywood has come in not doing that? And how far do they have to go?
They're very slow because they keep placing the blame here and there. What I say to the producers is that's your obligation. They say there's nothing being written for blacks. Well, writers are writing from their own experience. If I write about my neighborhood in Chicago, everybody's black. The producer has to take the license to say, these roles are relevant and they have to be black because of this situation, but now all of these people can be anything else. They have to be able to say that to casting. You can't blame it on casting. They get the breakdown and they simply send out what they're asked to cast for. So the producer has to take that license.
You also received the NAACP Image Award several times. What is the basis for receiving that award?
Well, that is, the Image Award is for a person that has portrayed the image of the black people, you know, in a positive manner. Now, the show is relevant to a segment of our background in most of our communities. It was told, I think, very well by the writer. It's her own experience from Chicago. And because we put a performance on that had 18 people in it, we had children 12 years old, and they all got a chance to perform, and most of them came out of our workshop, then we were very happy about that. The writer got it, my daughter got it for producing it, the director got it, you know, and I got it for the best performance. And the leading man was up too, so we were very happy about it. And it was our first play that we put on, so that made it even better.
With that, we have to say goodbye, and we're going to go listen to the great jazz. And I thank you for joining us.
And thank you for coming.
On Talk It Over. Okay, we'll just chit-chat. He's got the camera on us. That really is neat. I didn't get to the God's Ascension musician